Hey everyone, we are live and welcome to the Holidaze Coffee and Tea, the Barista's holiday favorite espresso beverages. I am live here with Breville in the Crate Kitchen. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. I am super excited about today. We have so much content we're gonna go over, so buckle up. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Andrea Allen. I'm one of the co-founders of Onyx Coffee Lab, and you've been reading the little bio about me probably, but I just want to say I love coffee. I love beverages. I'm super excited about the holidays. And one of the things I love so much about this time and space is just working on creating drinks that prompt really fun sensory experiences that you can share with others. So kind of while we're getting settled into our time together, I would love for you to put into the chat just where you're joining us from, because I want to see all of you. And I also would love, if you're joining us on Zoom, for you to turn on your screen. I really want to interact with you and see the drinks you're making and all that stuff. So go ahead and turn on your cameras if you have them. Stephanie from Los Angeles, Taylor from Kentucky, Myra from Virginia, Robin from New York, Gabby from Pasadena, CML from Washington, D.C., Carla from El Paso, Kimberly from Richmond, Meg, Elizabeth, Kier, welcome everyone. I know there's a lot more joining us in all of the different platforms, so thank you so much. All right, here's a little sneak peek of some of us on Zoom. Hey y'all, welcome. I'm so excited. Let's see who all we have here today. Quincy, Tasha, Laura, Barry, Taylor, Matt. What's up, Matt? Cool. All right, so let's take care of just a couple of housekeeping notes. So this class is just completely live, which is really fun and a little scary, just a little bit. But like I said earlier, I want to see your faces and making drinks, and I really want you to interact with me. This is a really great opportunity for you to ask questions about espresso. We're actually going to do milk steaming today. Oh my gosh. And just asking me whatever kinds of things that you have in your mind about these drinks or just about coffee in general. And the other big thing here is that we're going to be giving away live a Breville Barista Express Impress. So you do have to have your camera on and be interacting in order to be eligible to win. But it's Christmas. Wouldn't you want to have this for Christmas? Because it's a really great machine. Just a couple more notes. If you want to raise your hand in that feature in Zoom, basically one of our team members will engage with you and talk to you a little bit about your question, and then we'll just bring you on live and you can ask me live. It's going to be so fun. All right, enough of that. Let's get started. So we're going to be just going over the basics of espresso. I know that lots of y'all have tons and tons of espresso questions. We're going to answer as many as we can. And when I say we, you might be thinking like, it's just you. Like, where's Matt? Because right here is where Matt usually is. But Matt's going to be joining us from California today. So come on, Matt, let's get going. There he is. Hey, what's up? I'm doing good. I miss you. I know. Next time. Okay.
Next time.
All right, so let's talk about espresso. So one of the big questions I always get is just, how do I make great espresso? How do I know the espresso that I'm making is good? And so for me, I like to start in kind of a framework of a recipe. So I'm usually putting together ideas about how I want to start interacting with my coffee. One of the really cool things I think about recipes for espresso and also for drinks is that they're just kind of a guideline to get you started, and then you just adjust as you go along to suit like your flavor preferences. So the goal with making an espresso is just to have a really round, balanced flavor experience. And so one of the big questions I get connected to espresso recipes is just, how much coffee do I put in my portafilter? And one of the great things that Breville has kind of done in this space is to add a new feature to the machine that helps us address that. So Matt, I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about how this works.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of you might recognize this machine because it is an evolution of a product that we released into the market a really long time ago, which would be the Barista Express. So the Impress is really just revolutionizing the way that we approach puck preparation, essentially the idea of grinding, dosing, and tamping, right? Lots of variables at play when you make espresso, and we wanted to control as many of them as possible. So on the left side of the machine, we've kind of added this intuitive approach to having a mechanical tamp that simultaneously has the ability to read the depth of your coffee, thus giving you a live feedback of how much coffee you actually have in your portafilter. So
Awesome.
really amazing feature, but the great thing about it to me is that it doesn't just do it for you. It kind of helps walk you through a collaborative approach of making sure you have the right amount of coffee. So you still feel really engaged in that process, which as a barista, we kind of love doing that, right? We kind of love the rigorous process and the ritual of making espresso. But this way it's not as frustrating. So you always know that you're going to end up with a controlled variable consistently, and the tamp will give you 22 pounds of pressure. So it kind of just knocks out the really hard parts, but you still get to be a part, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. So I just took off the little cover just so you could see it. It usually just covers it, but so basically I've just dosed my coffee, and what I'm gonna do is tamp, and right here, this little guideline is gonna kind of like let us know like, how are we doing? Yay! We got the green light.
Perfect.
We got the green light to make this espresso. So, and I do want to mention too, I have made like two full shots of espresso on this machine so far this morning. So when I come to these kind of moments, like I am not necessarily spending a ton of time getting this machine dialed in, because if for some reason it wasn't, I'd actually like to do that live to show you how it works. I just want to like take a moment, because we're going to give away an apron at this point in the class, just to whoever is the first person to raise their hand on the camera on Zoom and ask a question. Ready? Go. My gosh, it's Barry. Barry, hey, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good.
What's up, Barry?
Do you have a question?
I love your background.
Oh, thank you.
So
I'm a member of
festive.
the Magic Castle.
Yes.
Awesome.
Now, is that your magic castle?
It is our Magic Castle.
Ooh.
There's about 5,000 of us members.
Wow.
Dope.
But
amazing.
my question
Cool.
is, what's the best roast for making espresso?
Oh my gosh, what a question.
That's for you, Andrea.
Thank you, Matt. So I don't want to answer your question by not answering your question, but it's really whatever coffee you like. So one of the really incredible things about espresso is that it really is just technically like a brew method in which to make coffee. So you can use a light roasted, like washed coffee from Ethiopia and create incredibly light-bodied, floral, and sweet espresso, or you can use something like from Colombia that is maybe a little bit more developed in the roast, that's gonna like create those kind of deeper, darker, smoky, red wine, dark chocolate kinds of flavors. So it really just depends on kind of what you're looking for in your espresso to connect to what kind of roast level or what kind of coffee you're looking for. What kind of coffee do you normally use?
I use a dark roast, maybe an espresso roast.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for the question, and enjoy the
Great, thank
apron.
you.
Yeah, somebody will get your information in the, the world of however the
Yeah.
technology works. So thanks. All
Thanks,
right, cool.
Barry.
So let's
Hey,
keep moving
Andrea.
along here. Oh, yep.
I have a really important thing here, which is that
Do
there
it.
is someone joining us right now,
Okay.
and it is their birthday.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you want me
So
to
just
sing?
wanted to give a really quick shout out to April. Happy birthday, April.
Oh, happy birthday. Are we still in Sagittarius time? We are.
Heck yeah, we are. Oh,
I
and
see you,
Taylor's
April.
is tomorrow.
I see y'all. I'm a Sagittarius too. Love it.
So am
All
I.
right. No, really? That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's keep going. So basically what we have right now is approximately 16 grams of espresso in my portafilter, and I actually just completely let this machine work it out for me. And so I'm just gonna, the next step is to insert and immediately brew. What I'm looking for is I want approximately between 3/4 an ounce and 1 ounce of espresso to come out on each side. So it's 1.5 to 2 ounces total in about 27 seconds. And I want the streams of coffee to look like a strand of cooked spaghetti. And it's gonna be dark to start with, and as it brews through the coffee, the streams are gonna lighten in color. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. And just in case any of you struggle with getting the portafilter in at home, I also struggle with it sometimes. Okay.
And just a reminder, if anyone has any specific questions, like please put them in the chat room. We would love to take care of any curiosities or mysteries that are going on your side of town.
Thank you. All right, so here we go. It's kind of dark to start with. So basically the very first thing that extracts is gonna be your really super concentrated flavor elements and kind of like the sour or a little bit more tart elements of the coffee. And then as it goes throughout, it goes into sweetness and then finally into bitterness. And I think y'all have probably heard me talk about this a ton, but basically that's the salt, sweet, and the bitter. All of those things can combine for a really harmonious balance to make a round flavor experience. So basically, whenever you're dialing in your espresso, you just kind of like want to have a framework at which you're looking to hit in terms of your recipe. And then what you do is just taste the coffee and decide if it's a little bit too on the sour side, then you need to get a longer extraction going on, just meaning that you need your grind size to be a little bit finer. On the other side, if it's a little bit bitter, you're gonna want to coarsen your grind size to get less brew or less extraction going on, and so you can get a little bit more towards that sweet side. And all of that happens through the grind. So the way I like to think about it is this: when the coffee is ground really fine, the water has a hard time or has to work harder to get through the coffee. It takes longer. There's just more brewing going on. And on the other side, the coarser the coffee is ground, the easier the time the water has to come through, the shorter the extraction time, and then a little bit more towards the sweet or sour side you're gonna be. All right, we've got a few questions. So I kind of wanna answer some of these. So the first question from Lynette: if the coffee beans are 1 month past its date, are they still good to use or just throw it away? So I'm gonna answer this in a couple of different ways, because 1 month past its date is that its roast date. If it's a month from roast date, it's still totally good. If it's like a month past a best consume by date, it's probably really old. And I'm actually not a fan of throwing coffee away. I think what you could do is just use it, make a couple of shots and see, like, is it usable? Is it still okay? A lot of times when you have a coffee that has a best by date, that usually means that they're actually expecting it to sit on the shelf for a long time. What I like to recommend is when you're buying coffee, I think it's better to look for a coffee that shows you the date it was roasted. Because then you actually know how old it is, as opposed to like, oh, sometime in the future it won't be good. So you're just gonna have to play around with it and see. Okay, next question. Where do you aim to get the dial for a good shot of espresso? So this is a question that I really, really wish we could all get in the same room and kind of all have the same machine and be working on it and just play with this, because no machine has the exact setting that I can tell you, set it on this and it'll be good. So usually in my experience with the Breville lineup of machines, you would want to have it like a little bit more like, you've got the whole range, you've got halfway, and then like somewhere between the halfway and the finest. But really it depends on the coffee you're using and the recipe you're using. So a lot of it just is trial and error. I'll tell you, on this particular machine, I have it set on 10. But the range of this machine, some of the Breville lineup has all the way up to like 40, just higher numbers. So just it's a little bit of a trial and error. Okay, yay, Jody has a question. Let's hear it, Jody. How are you?
There we go. Hi.
Hey.
If you coarsen your grind to get because it's coming out bitter, how do you get it to come through at the right time? Because it shouldn't start for about 8 seconds, right? Isn't it 8 to 10 seconds
Yeah.
or something before it should start?
Yeah. So I usually time the total time. So you're worried that if you if you like turn it coarser that it'll extract too fast for the
Too
total time?
quickly,
Too
right.
quickly?
Well, that
So,
it'll start dripping quicker because it's saying it shouldn't start dripping until between, I think it's 7 to 9, which
mhm.
is right where I'm falling. But I feel like but the brew is coming out bitter.
Okay.
So,
So what I would
and
do,
the total time is fine.
the total time is fine. Okay. So what I would
Right.
do is I would just take it one notch coarser and just for the time being throw out that 7 to 9 time frame. That is kind of a guideline by which you would kind of approach making espresso. So just like all of the recipes we're making today and even my espresso recipes, they're just kind of starting points. So flavor should be your guide. So you're totally right. If it tastes too bitter, this first step would be to just turn it a little coarser and then just try one and see what it does. And if it's better, then great. If it's not better, then you can try a couple of things. So you can actually add a little bit more coffee or a little bit less coffee in your portafilter and see if that will definitely affect the flavor. So you may just need to play around in that recipe, but don't worry about that 7 to 9 seconds. That's a guideline, and if it were to come out at 6 seconds, that does not mean it's not a good shot. If it tastes good to you, it's good. So it tastes bitter to you now, and you should make some steps to change that. Does that answer your question, hopefully? Cool. Hey, thank you so much, Jody. I really appreciate it. Matt, do you have any other like product thoughts or like questions that you want to talk about?
We do, yeah. So
Let's do it.
Patricia and Montique both have questions about the Bambino Plus, and they both seem to
Okay.
have questions regarding volumetrics or
Okay.
output in general. So Patricia was saying that she can never get 3 ounces of output. And I think
Okay.
this comes back to this kind of arbitrary approach, these guidelines that Andrea was mentioning. When we talk about this desired output of espresso, kind of aiming for roughly 2 ounces for a double shot, I think it's always really healthy to know that if you pull a shot of espresso and you're wanting it to be different, then that's really all that matters. If you're having a hard time figuring out how to create that outcome,
Yeah.
that's what we can help you with. And it definitely comes down to, like Andrea said, mostly changing your grind so that
Yes.
more water can come out in any desired amount of time, which is going to affect flavor, right? The amount of time that the coffee sits with the water changes everything. So if you're wanting more volume to come out, a lot of our machines are actually preset to be volumetric, meaning they will automatically shut off at about 30 to 60 milliliters, which comes out to about 1 or 2 ounces.
Yes.
On the Bambino Plus, if you want more, you can go into a program mode, which would be in the instruction booklet. But another way to do it is if you just push and hold any of our buttons, it'll go into a manual mode. And as long as you hold it, you'll be in pre-infusion. And then as soon as you let go of it, that machine will just run until you manually cut it off. So I would say that's probably the best way to go about it. Push and hold either the 1 or 2 cup button for about 5 seconds. Let go, and then just let that bad boy run until you're happy with what you get out of it, and then push it again to stop.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Hey,
Oh,
thanks
yeah.
for joining me. Next time, if you don't join me live in the Great Kitchen, I'm gonna have words. I don't know what they are yet, but there'll be a couple.
This is what you get because I beat you in rock, paper, scissors last time.
Do you think we can do it, or is there too much of a delay?
That's actually a really good question.
There's no delay. All
If
right,
there
ready?
is, hopefully it's to my advantage.
All right, here's the deal, y'all. Matt throws scissors every time first. Ready?
Yep. Hold on. Can we see my hand? There
Yep.
we go. Ready?
All right.
Rock, paper, scissors. Oh!
All right, one more.
One more. Ready?
Rock, paper, scissors.
See, this is Hilarious.
It's not gonna work. Next time. Next time.
All right,
Thank
I
you
guess
so
I'll be
much
there
for
in person
joining
next
us.
time.
Yeah, perfect. Alicia has a question. All right, let's hear it. Hey. How's it going?
Good, good. How are you? Sorry, the
I'm
mute
so
button.
good. No, you're
So
good.
I have the Breville One Touch, and
Okay.
this normally happens when I pull the shots, but I get some
Okay.
standing water on
Okay.
top of the grinds when it's done. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little,
Okay.
and then my significant other like rarely gets that. And I'm wondering if like you have any insights to what that is, if I'm doing something wrong. Sometimes I feel like I want more coffee grind in there before I start the shot.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll try to add a little bit more, and I'm not sure
Mhm.
if that's kind of ruining
Yeah.
the intent.
So what that means is just that not all the water was able to come out. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing it right or that you are doing it right. It's just kind of an offshoot. Like for me, when I brew decaf or Onyx decaf coffees, I always get standing water. There's a different level of solubility in those coffees, just meaning like how easily they dissolve into water. So I don't think it means anything. Too much, but does your espresso taste good?
Yeah, I mean, super happy with the taste. I just thought it was odd that sometimes I get it, and then sometimes my partner Greg never gets it. And I wasn't sure if it was the
Interesting.
tamping, and so I'm trying to push more down, and then I feel like I want to add more beans to it, like maybe because I like really strong shots.
Yeah.
And so then I'm thinking more is better, but that's maybe not always the
Yeah.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Can I offer some advice as well,
Yeah,
just from
for
a
sure.
product perspective?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Alicia, did you say that you have the Barista Touch?
Yeah.
Cool. So that machine has what's called an OPV, or an overpressure valve, along with a three-way solenoid valve. And that's all just fancy talk to say that when that machine gets up to a certain amount of pressure, it has the ability to bleed off pressure. And what that also does is at the end of your shot, when you turn it off or when it's done, you'll probably hear like a weird sound, like it's almost like
Okay.
discharging pressure. What that's doing is it's actually removing some of that water
Yes.
as well.
Oh, interesting.
However, you actually hit it on the head when you said that maybe I need to add more coffee, because if there's too much of a gap between the top of that coffee and
Yes.
what's called the shower head,
Okay.
it can't remove all of it.
Okay. So
And
are you,
that's
so then,
probably why sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm.
oh, okay. Do you think it's bad to add more coffee? Like when I feel
Nope.
like, oh, no, it's good. Okay.
Go
All
for
right,
it.
great. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I love the machine. It's been a life changer for us. So we're really,
Great.
really happy with it.
So cool.
Amazing. Love to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, y'all can already see we could actually just talk about espresso for hours. So one of the things we're trying
All
to do
day.
for 2023 is to do just an espresso class. So that is hopefully coming, and we're just gonna like nerd out the whole time. So I want to just kind of quickly run through a couple more questions that are asked about espresso, and then we're gonna jump into the drinks. So one of the questions is whether I'm timing from when I turn the machine on or when the first drop comes out. And that's a question from Josh. And I start timing as soon as I hit the button, because as soon as you hit the button, water starts coming out. So from the portafilter, or sorry, from the group head. So it's already brewing. So if it took 30 seconds for it to start dripping out, I mean, it's had tons of brewing going on. If it takes 1 second, it's kind of the same. So I will time it the whole time. Teresa is asking about the volume output and that it's not very much. So I would just kind of point you to the discussion that Matt just had about holding down on the button and changing the programming. So if it's just not putting out enough water, I want you to just either get it into manual mode so you can start just controlling how much water comes out, or change the programming. And you can do that using the steps he said, or you can look in your owner's manual. They have really great instructions in there. Let's see here. Kirsten is asking about tools that can help you. She's asking about the WDT tool, a puck screen, etc., which is one of the things I'm wanting to bring a WDT when we go to our really intense espresso class. Here's the deal. There are like tons of things that you can use, buy, play with in espresso space. I think that those things do take a really good espresso and make a great espresso. But you don't have to have any extra tools to make great espresso. I make great espresso all the time. I feel like I know so much about it. I have every tool you can dream of. And when I'm just making espresso, I'm just making it without anything because I think it can be really great. And for me, I want coffee to be simple. Some people love all the tools and gadgets, and I love them too, and I just say go for it, but you don't have to have those things. Okay. We'll have to just wait on some of these other questions for another time. But really quickly, one thing I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna turn my grind size a little bit more coarse because I really only pulled one shot out of this morning. And I decided to change it because I was like, oh, I want a little bit of higher of extraction. But when I just pulled that shot, I actually thought that it needed longer time. It was a little bit on the sour side. So I just changed it from 10 to 11. And that's really all. Like when you get really close, you just need to make really tiny minor adjustments and it works wonders. Okay, we're actually gonna make a drink now. So we're gonna jump straight into making the S'mores Gibraltar. I love this drink. It is a classic holiday drink. It is essentially a little teeny tiny mocha that has a graham cracker and a toasted marshmallow on top. One of the reasons that I always make it so small is because it's really rich. When you start getting chocolate and marshmallow and all the stuff, it's a lot. So I just like for it to be super tiny. But I'm also gonna like kind of build the structure of the drink so that it has a lot of height to it. I want everything to kind of be around the same size, but I want the graham cracker and the marshmallow to really like pop on top. I don't want them to get lost. I don't want them to fall into the drink until I'm ready to dip them in there. All of the drinks this time too have a like alcohol suggestion or a spirit suggestion if you want to take it up a notch over the holidays. I'm not going to put any rum in this one. And you'll see I'm going to use this like little teeny tiny cup here. And for this, it's like if I were to put rum in here, it would just, there'd be no room for the coffee or for the milk. So I'm just going to omit that on this, but if you want to, you can totally throw some rum in there or whatever spirit you think would taste great with this, and go for it. It'll be great. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of preparation before I start making the drink. So I'm going to put about ½ ounce of chocolate sauce in here. And this is the chocolate sauce that I brought with me that we make at Onyx, but you can use just whatever you buy at the store. You can also use like a dark chocolate bar that is melted. You can use all kinds of things, whatever your preferred chocolate is. So my next step is just gonna be to prepare an espresso, and then I'm gonna steam milk, and I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna spend some time talking about milk. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the shot here. So remember that I did just make that grind size adjustment. So my assumption is that since I turned the grind setting a little bit more coarse, that the shot's going to be a little faster. And I'm actually looking as well for a slightly higher volume in my cup. I tasted this when it came out and I thought it tasted fine, but I would love to have just like a little bit more balance for this drink. All right, so let's check it out because I did change the grind size here, so it is possible. I was going to say that it's possible that I might not get the green light, but I did, so I'm excited. I love the affirmation on this machine. It's so great. All right. Okay, so you can see it's an insert and it's an immediate brew. Just get this brewing. So I want you to watch as it comes out because I think it's going to actually come out a little bit faster. I think it's going to be a slightly larger stream, and it's going to turn lighter quicker. So I don't know if you can tell the difference, but that's a larger stream than I had earlier, which is great because I was wanting it to be a faster extraction. Faster extraction. Okay, there we go. That looks good. Okay. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, So basically what we're about to do is like just completely talk through milk steaming. And so this is arguably, in my opinion, this is the most difficult skill to master in coffee. One of the reasons that most of my drinks don't contain milk steaming that I share on this time is because it's just so hard to get it right. And I want you all to be able to make really, really great, really beautiful drinks, regardless of what your skill set with milk steaming is. But that being said, the classic espresso drinks are espresso and milk. And I also love milk. I love milk steaming. I love latte art. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about milk steaming and get you set up for the holidays. So I want to go ahead and start talking through milk steaming. Sorry. This is the beauty of this class being live, is sometimes I have to disappear for a second. It's cool. All right, so we're gonna start talking about milk steaming. And so the placement of your steam wand is like super critical here. So my recommended placement is right in the middle and then a quarter of the way over to the wall. So right in the middle, a quarter of the way over. And so basically what our goal with that is going to be is to create a rapid swirling motion inside of the steam pitcher that will do a couple of things. It's going to, of course, heat the milk, but that circulation is going to also incorporate air that is being injected into the milk by the steam wand and create beautiful velvety, small-celled microfoam. So the goal is that at the end it's gonna look like wet paint. So the other part of the way to achieve this is to submerge the wand the right depth. So basically, you want to submerge the wand just slightly past the tip where the steam comes out. You don't want to get it all the way down in there. Sometimes people are like, okay, I'm really nervous about this. I'm just going to put the wand all the way down. I'm just going to make sure nothing happens. And literally what happens is that the steam is so close to down here to the bottom that when it hits the pitcher, this curve, it literally is like a magnification of that pressure, and it can like actually like just go everywhere. If that happens to you, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Just try again. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it here. We're going to watch it. We spent a bunch of time getting this camera overhead right because I very rarely see steaming where you can actually see it, and we wanted to make it a priority for this to happen. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and I want to show you the placement here. Okay, so I'm right here in the middle, and I'm a little bit over on the side. I want to also talk to you just a little bit about the way that this machine is going to behave when I turn it on. So it does take just a second for this machine, for not just this machine, but most machines, to actually get the steam going and start injecting, and then it like gets more aggressive over time. And that's completely normal. Sometimes you're going to turn it on and you're like, oh my gosh, is anything going to happen? And just wait for it. And what I want you also to do is just to think about keeping this position super stable while this is happening. It's going to be hard to see in the beginning whether the rapid swirling motion is actually occurring because there's going to be like a little bit of a creation of some like big bubbles on the top. Don't worry about the big bubbles. Also, I don't want to see anybody doing this. And if you do this right now, don't tell anybody. Don't tell me, but don't do that. What you want to do when you start to move the steam wand around, you lose complete control of the ability to create microfoam. So I want you to just get it positioned, get it exactly where you want it to be. And then the very final, very important piece of this is that you want to allow the steam tip to just very slightly break the surface of the milk, and that will pull in air and inject it into the milk and create microfoam. And what it's going to sound like is this. Okay, it doesn't, sometimes you're going to hear this big, loud, roaring noise, and if that happens, that means your steam wand is too deep in the milk and you need to just slightly pull the steam wand or the steam pitcher down so that it can break the surface and that sound will go away. Sometimes you hear like big garbly, like, and that's like just like way too much air injection. So you just want to do it a little bit. And I am going to do it from the time that the steam starts coming out of the steam wand until the milk is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And the way I'm going to know that is because I'm just going to be kind of touching this every once in a while. And when it feels hot, it's at 100. That's not exact science, but your body is like around 98 degrees. Your hand doesn't present at 98, but like when it starts to feel hot, that is when it's at 100. And this is the magic point where if you inject air after this point, instead of the air and the milk like doing this and making this beautiful slick foam, it starts to do this. It actually just like builds up on top of each other and makes this big, giant, frothy, foamy stuff. And if you're into that, do it. But to pour latte art and to have microfoam, you cannot inject air after that point. So basically what I'm going to do is just very slightly submerge the wand at that point and then just let it finish the heating process. I'm gonna heat it to around 130 degrees today. All right, let's talk more action. Here we go. Buckle up, guys. All right, so I'm gonna turn it on, and I'm just in the period where I'm waiting for the steam to get ready. It's an incredible amount of anticipation going on right now. Okay, so you can hear it. Here it comes. Okay. So I have just slight swirling motion, and you can see those bigger bubbles I was talking about. I'm not going to worry about that because I know that they're going to get incorporated in there as we go along. And I hope everyone can hear the sound. It's just like so super subtle, and you really need to do it on this machine the entire time in order to get microfoam. If you are a barista that works on a commercial machine, this is the main difference in those, is that in commercial machines, you really only need to actually inject air for a really short period of time. On this machine, if you just let it inject until you hit 100, you should be golden. Okay, here's a pro tip. After you turn it off, first of all, beautiful steam happening. But I'm just gonna wait a second because if you pull the steam wand down too quickly, even though it's off, there's just this tiny bit of steam, and it's not that big of a deal, but what it will do is inject air after the critical 100 Fahrenheit point, and then it will ruin all of your hard work. So we'll take a little looky at the, from the top here at the consistency of this. There we go. Oh my gosh. It's like, it's backwards, so you move the like opposite way you think. Okay, so see how it's like super slick? It looks like wet paint, and that is glorious. I am so excited that that worked out. Okay, I know that y'all have tons of questions. I wanna kind of build the drink while I'm at the critical moment with my milk, and then I'm gonna come back and do my very best to answer all of your questions. Okay, so basically I just combined my espresso and my chocolate, and you might be kind of thinking like, shouldn't you have gotten that espresso shot in there sooner? And I actually would have loved to do that, but I really wanted to take the time to talk through steaming in this moment. So I'm just basically gonna stir it up. I'm gonna give myself a little latte art pour. Let's go back to the top for this one. So I'm gonna drop it in. Let's do a top down, please. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm just gonna drop it in, and I'm gonna get real close. Just make a little baby heart. All right, just a little tiny bit of love for everybody. Oh, that feels so good. That was really fun. Okay, so now I have been dreaming about doing things with fire on live streaming always, and I did a little bit of it in the last class, but I'm gonna go ahead and toast this marshmallow just using the stove over here. And it's a little risky. Just kidding. It's not that risky, but I always have these little like torches and like gadgets and all these things. And somebody here yesterday kind of pointed out, they're like, hey, not everybody has this little fancy, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I can do it on the stove. So there's the classic kind of debate about should we light this on fire or not, just in terms of like how you like your marshmallows. And I actually like my marshmallows just slightly brown, but I have a feeling that like it's just gonna go. This is a real art that I have not mastered yet. And if you're gonna do this at home, I mean, you know, be careful, all the stuff, but also just have fun. I mean, it's the holidays, so. All right, we're just gonna call it a day there before it gets really, really intense. Okay, so here I've got my marshmallow. I'm just gonna slide it down over this graham cracker. There's nothing fancy about this. I mainly just wanna like kind of get it looking the way I want it to, which is just like the gooeyest possible looking marshmallow. You're gonna always want to do this not on the drink. So if you try doing it on the drink, I can't do it on the drink. You're gonna push it in there and it's still gonna taste great, but it's not gonna look the way you want it to. All right, and that's exactly how I wanted it to look for the most part, and I'm super excited. So this drink hits me on all kinds of levels. So it's got all of like beautiful like sweetness in the chocolate. It's got the kind of like really great aromatic from the marshmallow. And it also just like has height to it. So it just like has some dynamic going on. And you know, the other thing that's beautiful about this is like, I made a little heart in my latte, but you could have made nothing in this and it still looks amazing. So I'm always just trying to really create drinks that hit all of the senses without you having to be the world's greatest latte artist, because I'm actually not the world's greatest latte artist, which you guys can tell from this little drink that I made. It's just, it takes a lot of time to get really good. I don't think it takes a ton of time to be pretty decent at it. So if you're out there and you feel super discouraged about latte art, don't worry about it. There is an incredible wealth of information that Breville has on lots of like classes and past content on YouTube that you can check out. Okay, I know I have millions of questions, so I'm gonna pop over and answer as many as I can right now. Oh, Debbie has a live question. Debbie, are you still there? Hey, Debbie, how's it going? There you go. I can hear you.
I had two things.
Okay.
The first is, how would you adapt your recipes to just using drip coffee?
Yeah.
Now this one not so much because it was a straight shot.
Yeah.
Some others that you've done, you've just used some mixers in there. How would you adapt that? And the second thing is, I'm new to Onyx.
Yay.
What would be your first? Yeah, I'm so excited. Have not made an order yet, but just got the business account set up.
Awesome.
What would be the first thing I should order? Not espresso.
Oh, girl, not espresso?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh, what a question. So, couple of thoughts here. You can always use brewed coffee in these recipes instead of espresso. What I would do if I was going to adapt this one to a brewed coffee is I would just put it in a bigger cup, so maybe like a 6-ounce cup. Then once you get into that land, it's kind of like what's called like a cafe au lait style, which is basically just like half coffee, half milk. And you can kind of adjust that based on your flavor preferences. But then you could do the chocolate, half coffee, half steamed milk. It's really good. So it's basically, you can do almost any, I'm just trying to think through, any espresso beverage with a drip for sure in that way.
Okay.
And then my recommendation for us is just to start with Southern Weather. That is like our classic, yes ma'am, that is our classic long time running coffee that is really, really great as a drip coffee. I actually drink it every day. I'm actually not out here drinking Panama Geishas, although I did drink one today. I have to say it was really good.
Good for you.
Thanks, yeah. But I love Southern Weather. It's really good. It tastes great with cream and sugar as well if you're into that. And so I think that's a great place to get started with Onyx for sure.
Okay. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thanks, Debbie. Enjoy. Okay, I think Mitchell has a question. There's going to be a second, though. I'm going to do it. While we're waiting for Mitchell, I'm going to go through a couple of these questions. Okay, so Bob is asking about when to add the spirit in this drink because I didn't add it. So what I would do is do chocolate and then put the spirit in and stir it and then put the espresso in. So I usually like to just kind of build and prep my drinks, cups and things before I start making espresso. And I know there was kind of a delay between when the espresso came and all the stuff, but you know what? It tastes really good. Just putting that out there. Okay, Mitchell. Let's see.
Good morning from Vancouver, British Columbia. What's the best way to store the coffee beans?
The best way to store coffee beans?
Put them in the freezer, yeah.
Yes, I have lots of thoughts about this. So my first thought is if you buy coffee and you're planning to drink it within a couple of weeks or a month, you're good to just store it in one of two ways. One would be just in the bag it came in. Just fold the bag down or, close the box or whatever it's in to kind of keep tons of air out of the beans themselves. But then I think if you're going to go and you want to keep it out of the sun, just like in, not completely airtight, but pretty air-ish tight. And then I think if you have like a super special coffee that you're wanting to keep for posterity, you can freeze it for sure. And the thing about, so the thing about freezing coffee is that when you pull the coffee out from the freezer, go ahead and grind it frozen, and it's gonna extract a little bit differently. It's gonna brew a little bit differently, but it'll be exactly as it was as you froze it. But you only want to take out what you use, because if you put a whole bag in and you freeze it and then you take the whole bag out, it's going to die almost immediately. Because when you freeze it, it's like just changing the cell structure of the coffee. And so then when it unfreezes, like all of that flavor in the body and everything that you love about that coffee is available, but only for like that moment. So just do it in small batches, or just like open up the bag and take some out and leave the bag in. Great question.
All right, perfect.
Thank you. All right, let's move to the next drink. So the next drink we're making is a classic. It's an eggnog latte. It is literally exactly as it sounds. It is steamed eggnog, espresso, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of bourbon in this here today because I think that it tastes great, and this is really a drink that does great with the spirit in it. And then we're just gonna work on dusting the top with spices that like really complement eggnog, which are nutmeg, cinnamon, and turmeric. And one of the reasons that I really like to dust the top of this drink is because eggnog is really hard to steam. It's also really hard to pour. So I feel like the odds of me getting like really great latte art out of this drink are not super great. So because of that, and also for flavor and appearance and all of the things, I really want to just like dust across the top. I'm going to show you a little method that I have that I like to do. Okay, so we're going to kind of just go back to the drawing board. I'm going to pull some shots, steam the eggnog. I felt pretty happy with that last shot that I had, so I'm not going to do anything here. While that's grinding, I'm going to go ahead and put my spirit in. So I know earlier that Bob was asking about when to add the spirit, and so just showing it here, I usually just do it right at the beginning so that my cup is like completely ready to go, so that as soon as I start steaming the milk, it's just completely ready to go. All right, we're just gonna see how consistent are we here. Get a green? Oh yeah, And I kind of like want to take credit for that, but honestly, I'm not doing anything. The machine is just consistently dosing, which is beautiful. All right. One of the things I like to mention to you about espresso preparation, and now you've seen me pull 3 shots in the time we have together, is that I really want you to think about being consistent and doing the same, doing exactly the same thing every time. Because anytime you change a portion of your preparation or your methodology, you actually change you like just add another variable in that can change the espresso. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and steam, and you know what? I was not gonna do a top down because it's eggnog, but I'm gonna do it, because why not? We're here, I'm here, you're here. Everybody's freaking out. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's make sure I'm in the right spot here. Cool. All right, here we go. Okay, so just remember, you're gonna be, your position, you're gonna be right in the middle and then just to the side, and you are gonna just wait for a second here for the steam to get going. Oh man. What a beautiful moment to share. So growing up as a barista, we used to always do eggnog lattes in the shop. And it's just so hard to steam because it has eggs in it, you know, it's got sweetness in it, vanilla, it's like heavy cream. It's really hard to steam. And I'm not like really trying to make tons of foam in this because I just want it to like get steamed, and this one is actually performing pretty good. So this is just an alternative plant-based eggnog that I picked up. I went to a couple of different stores here in Chicago, and I was honestly impressed with the options for eggnog. There was a number of the alternative plant-based, which were cool. There were several different like brands of dairy-based eggnog, which was cool. So you can see I've got some of those bigger bubbles. And you know, it just is like, this is eggnog. I'm not gonna worry too much about it. But I am gonna do a little bit of grooming of my milk to kind of just try to pop those out a little bit and just create a little bit of microfoam here. So if we'll go back overhead here just for a second. You can see when I love this, it's just the most backwards thing ever. When I like tapped, it knocks bigger bubbles out. And then I'm gonna swirl to reincorporate. So I think that if you're gonna do this drink, don't worry about latte art. I'm gonna try to attempt to pour something here and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and put both of these shots in here as well. I think some of this is like you're gonna wanna, depending on what size cup you have, I think you're gonna want to just kind of decide what you wanna do with shots, but anytime you add more espresso, you're just adding more caffeine and you're adding more of that flavor. Let's go back overhead if we think that we could. And we are gonna just see. This is such a risky business right here. Look at all my beautiful ingredients. And I'm just gonna pour a bunch of eggnog on top of it. Let's go. I like the pressure. You know what? Not a single piece of latte art. But I'm glad you guys got to see that because, I mean, my whole livelihood is making coffee drinks, so sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, especially with eggnog. Okay, perfect. So now I kind of want to do an overhead view again too here if we can, and I'm just going to show you this little method that I have of like dusting across the top to see how to try to make this thing beautiful. It's going to taste great. But really what I want to do is elevate its appearance, also add in some flavor, add in an aromatic as well. So I'm just going to start with nutmeg. And these are not anything fancy. These are just things I got at the store. But what I'm going to do, and this is just a little piece of foil that I folded together and cut that I'm going to use as a guide to help me place my spices. And I know Jody has a question. Jody, do you want to come on while I start working on this?
Hi, yeah, how important is the water to a good espresso? I have, I have the Breville Touch, and it comes with a strip where you can test the water, and the water tested fine. But then I was reading that you can get drops and add it to distilled water to make a better espresso. So is that something that's just suggested, or I mean, is that really going to make that much of a difference?
It makes a huge difference. So depending on what kind of water you have, just as an extreme example, if your water had something like sulfur in it, like you can do all kinds of stuff to your water, you can filter it, but that sulfur is still in there. So if it has mineral content, if it has hardness, if it has actually sometimes it has less, like really low TDS in the water, the coffee does need something to bind to. And so it's like, you do have to have a certain level of TDS. So I think that doing the distilled water and then adding the mineral packets in is the way to get perfect water every time. But if you live in a place that has pretty good water and you have a filter, I think you do pretty good with it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're just gonna finish this up here and have a little reveal. So, okay, I just did a little line of nutmeg here, and so then I'm just gonna work through this. And this turmeric is a little bit challenging, and so I'm just gonna also kind of pour on top of the foil. Yeah, and if we could maybe try on there we go. The goal here is really just to get a little bit of color in this. So you can see I've kind of got starting to get a little bit of a line here. And you want to be careful because you don't want to put too much of this actually in the drink, I think, because it starts to affect the flavor. And some people are into tons of turmeric, into the flavor of turmeric, some are not. So you just kind of want to feel that out a little bit. I also think this could be a really great moment to utilize a stencil. If you had something that felt Christmassy that you wanted to stencil over, this could be a really great time to use that. Okay, and then the last one I'm gonna do is cinnamon. Such precise work. No, I love this kind of stuff because, again, it's just it turns out to just make a really attractive looking drink that I feel is, helps just add that pop of color and texture to drinks that you're serving for the holiday. So we'll take a little looky. There we go. Yeah, and this one has a little whiskey in it, so I'm gonna try it. Don't mind if I do. Thank you, everyone. Okay. This has been really great. So now we're going to move into the final drink. This is, honestly, this Cranberry Matcha Lassi is one of my favorite drinks I've ever made. Somehow the colors turned out perfect. I started playing with it back in the summer, just trying to think through what we could do with color and flavor to really represent the holiday season, and this drink just turned out really great. It tastes really great. It's simple to make. So let's talk a little bit about the ingredients. So this is a matcha tea, and you can see I'm kind of stirring on it a little bit because it's been sitting here. But basically, brewing a matcha tea is just taking the powdered green tea, putting hot water on it, and giving it a really great stir. So it's a little tiny particled. The particles are really small, and you really have to whisk it or stir it really, really well to get it completely dissolved. Matcha is amazing. I love drinking matcha. This particular matcha is one that we have at Onyx, and it's a ceremonial grade matcha that comes from a region in Uji in Japan. It's farmed by women. It's a generational farm. It's a super cool project. But I love matcha. I love drinking matcha in the afternoon. I think it's really great to have a nice beverage that does have a little bit of caffeine, but is not so overtly caffeinated like coffee is. And it's beautiful. So I made this a little bit ago, but I do want to just mention that you can totally use your espresso machine to make tea. So that's actually exactly how I made this. I just measured out the matcha, measured out the hot water, and I put it together. And I kind of just want to remove, take the portafilter out and just show you where the tea function is. One of the things I think that lots of folks like to think about is just like how much counter space do you have? How many gadgets do you need? We had someone earlier asking about all of the espresso things, and this machine is really great. All the Breville machines are, but like you can use this hot water spout to make all kinds of stuff. So just showing you there that this functionality is there, and that's what I use to make the matcha. So this drink is a layered drink. I love layered drinks. So the base of the drink is pretty straightforward. It's going to be like a matcha latte, a little teeny tiny matcha latte. So it's a couple ounces of matcha. It's about an ounce of milk. And I'm gonna put just a tiny bit of vanilla in it and stir it in the bottom of the cup. So let me go ahead and pour my matcha in. Just gonna put a little splash of milk in. So this right here, if you were to just drink this, this is gonna taste pretty good, but the matcha has a real earthy, slightly grassy, it's got lots of nut sorts of flavors in this particular one. So I do think, for me, if I'm gonna drink it without anything in it, I love the flavor and I just drink it black, like black coffee, no. I guess I just drink it green. But if I add milk, I'm always gonna add just like a touch of sweetness. So whether that's vanilla, honey, like whatever your preferred sweetness is. All right, so here's the base of the drink. And then I'm gonna go ahead and build the top of the drink and shake it up for an hour and a half like I always do. So there's a couple of things I want to mention with the base of this drink. I'm using coconut cream today, but I love using this particular, using yogurt instead of the coconut in this particular drink. So the yogurt gives this drink a really incredible, like tangy sort of vibe going on in it. It does make it also a little bit more like a traditional lassi drink. A lassi is traditionally in the spirit of a buttermilk drink. It is a drink that kind of comes out of South Asia and those areas over there. So this like completely has departed from lassi, but we like to take that name and kind of like apply it here because of the tangy kind of vibe going on in it. All right, so I've got my coconut milk, I'm gonna add the heavy cream. And then the ingredient that really makes this drink magic are twofold. So the first one is cranberry clove simple syrup. And this is something that we made at home. And basically, simple syrups are almost all very, very similar recipes. So you've got approximately half sugar, half water. You start heating it and sweetening it and stirring it. And then you're just gonna throw in a bunch of cranberries, and in this one, like a couple of cloves, and you're gonna cook it and let it sit until all of the cranberries have broken down and released all of their colors and flavors. And then you'll strain it out using a strainer or like a cheesecloth or something like that. That's a super simple explanation of how to make a simple syrup, but that is basically what we did here. And so it gives it a really incredible holiday flavor and also a really great color. The other thing I'm gonna do to really bump the color up in this drink is I'm just gonna add just a little bit of beet powder. So I'm always kind of a fan of using these organic, natural powders to help up color, create roundness of flavor. So I'm not gonna use a ton. It's like half of a quarter of a teaspoon. I like to call it a pinch usually, but I didn't have a little pinch. I didn't have a pinch tool here, but you have to be careful. You've heard me talk about beet before. It gets really beety really quick. So I'm adding it for color and also for like roundness of earthiness of flavor. I think it actually helps tie the matcha into the drink by like layering up on that earthy kind of flavor. And now I'm gonna do my favorite thing, which is shake this thing for an hour. And while I'm doing this, I think Angie has a question, so I'd love for her to come on and ask me a question while I'm doing the shake bit. Hey Angie, how's it going?
Good. I'm enjoying my s'mores.
Oh, that's beautiful. Good job.
I lost the marshmallows there.
Yeah, that's okay. It's meant to get messy.
About the espresso extraction.
Yeah.
I weighed out my espresso with a double basket, and it was about like 15 grams.
Okay.
When I poured the shot, when I pulled the shot, I still got a yield of the 2 ounce yield.
Great.
However, it started off trickling super duper slow, like drip drip, as opposed to like that smooth hot honey flow.
Right. Okay.
Would that mean the beans are ground too fine, or did I tamp too firmly?
Here's a question. How long did the total extraction take?
It still did like the 28, 29 seconds.
So, and then what did it taste like? Did you like the way it tasted?
So, a little bit darker, not so acidic, but I was just wondering how to adjust. Would that mean like I just ground it too fine, or did I just ground too hard that it went slow?
I think it's more connected to the grind. So what I would suggest doing is just taking it one notch or just like a tiny bit coarser and just seeing what it does. So I don't know if you were able to follow the streams of my first shot were like really tiny and like dark, and it took a little bit of time. And then I just changed it by one setting, and the overall time wasn't that different, but I felt like the extraction in the brew and the flow of everything was better. And I didn't taste it when it came out, but it smelled better to me. So I would try just taking a little bit coarser and just seeing. If you try that and you don't like the flavor as much, you can always go back.
Cool. So half a notch dial down.
Yep, just like a teeny tiny bit.
Cool. Thanks so much. Enjoying the classes as always.
Thank you. Enjoy. All right, we have another question from Quincy. Get in here. Hey Quincy, how's it going?
How are you?
Good, thank you. What's your question?
Okay, so I don't have this Breville espresso machine. I just use the mocha pot.
Awesome.
But I was wondering what the kind of upkeep was to the machine and what the best ways to keep it quick and thin and last a long time.
That's a great question. The upkeep of the machine is really low. So there's a couple of super basic things that you'll want to do with any espresso machine. And Breville has a really great owner's manual that has all kinds of things to do in it. But basically the first thing is just to keep the outside clean. So particularly the steam one, sorry guys. After you get done steaming, make sure to clean it really well, keep everything clean. I think depending on how much you use it, a periodic grind purge using a product that's made to clean grinders is a good idea. So there's one out there called Grinds or something like that. You basically just put some in the top and grind it through, and that just helps keep the grinder clean. But really the most important thing is the water. So these machines come with a little water filter that you install in the back, and it kind of it just filters stuff out. That's what I'm saying. And so it keeps the particles, minerals, scale, things like that out of the machine. I would say that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing to think through with these machines, is just keeping the water clean as you go through time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
What's your favorite part of the machine? Favorite features?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound kind of generic, but my favorite part of these machines is that they make great espresso. I think people are always trying to figure out, is it worth it to buy one of these machines? Is it just going to be a slight step up from my mocha pot? Is it going to be not anywhere close to something I have in a cafe? And I have literally used this machine, Breville machines, all over the world and made incredible coffee for all kinds of folks. And to me, there is very, very little difference in the performance and flavor of the espresso coming from a Breville machine and something coming from a commercial machine. So I definitely think that's my favorite just thing about the machines in general. But for this particular machine, I love the dosing, tamping, smiling, pause of affirmation. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Quincy. Awesome. Appreciate it. All right, y'all, let's finish this thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drop my ice cube in. Woo! I'm gonna finish just shaking this just a little bit, and then I'm gonna strain it across the top. That's gonna be all she wrote. I wanna mention something too. So I had a fun experience here this time in Chicago trying to find some edible flowers. So I was looking around for edible flowers because I love using them, and sometimes I bring them all the way from Arkansas, which is really hard. And I couldn't find any, and then I started reading about peonies, and they apparently are okay to put in drinks, which is super cool. So I kind of started having this thought of like, maybe instead of specifically buying flowers to put onto my drinks, that I might just start utilizing flowers that are of course food safe, but that I just have around. And that's literally what we're gonna do to garnish this drink. All right, so I'm gonna get this strainer set up, and I'm just gonna strain slowly over the top. Always remember when you're doing this that the flow, the aggressiveness of the pour and the temperature of the beverage is what is gonna keep it separated. So I actually think if you were gonna do this one is iced, but if you were gonna do hot matcha on the bottom, that it would still separate, but you just wanna make sure that it's pretty hot, not super hot, but hot. And then make sure that that what you're doing in the top is the cold shaken foam. I'm just gonna keep shaking until I get all that I want out of this. Nice. Okay. We didn't talk a ton about the shaking. I've done this quite a few times with y'all, so I just want to mention that it is a dry shake, so it's like the shaker ball or the spring from around your cocktail shaker is the thing that you're going to use. And doing that helps create texture. It helps keep water from melting into the beverage, which just dilutes the flavor. So I'm literally just going to pull some flowers off of this, pull some petals off, and just stick them in the top of the drink. Again, I just want to remind everybody that if you're doing this at home, make sure that this is, whatever you're using is an acceptable flour that's not gonna hurt anyone. All right, I'm gonna start with that as my base, and then I'm gonna get some really great petals off of this. While I'm doing this, I would love to hear if we have any questions, but also we're totally about to come to the time that we've all been waiting for, which is that we're gonna give something away. And because this is the most amazing experience for me to have live, I just got live word that when you buy a Barista Express and Press during the holiday season, you also get 12 free bags of coffee from beans.com. So it's a gift with purchase initiative, and I would just say if you've been thinking about getting one of these or thinking about gifting one, now is a great time because you also basically gift a ton of great coffee as well. So, okay, here's the drink. I'm a really big fan of this garnish on the top. It looks really great. Super simple. It's just flowers from the countertop. I love it. Perfect. Okay. Yay. I feel sad. This is the last one of the year, guys. So I really, really want everyone to, again, I know, turn your cameras on because I want to do a big group photo just to commemorate this moment before the holiday, before the new year. I know it's such a crazy week. So go ahead and turn your cameras on, and we're gonna do a big group Zoom photo I want to see everybody. Yay! You all are so beautiful. So much fun. Melissa, Linda, Bob and Donna. Cheers, guys. Kim, super cool. Myra, Atrice, Janet. I know I'm not going to be able to read everyone's names. But, again, breaking live, we have a winner. It's Tasha. Yay! Congratulations. Tasha, you did it. You're the winner. Great job. Yeah, turn on your mic so we can hear your excitement. I'll translate. She's so excited. She can't wait to make espresso. She's going to make along with it. She cannot wait to come to the nerdy espresso
muted?
class. There you go. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't have an espresso machine. I do not have one. I have been watching hours and hours and doing research, and I've been dying to learn. I am completely speechless. I'm an online teacher. I am at work. I work during my lunch just to get to be here. I am speechless.
You know what? You have an espresso machine now. You're going to do it. It's going to be so cool. I love it. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. It's super cool. Merry Christmas too. Y'all, that's it. This just unfortunately brings us to the end. Thank you so much for joining us. I really hope you guys have a really awesome holiday. And I also hope you have a great time just constructing really beautiful drinks for your friends and for your family. And as you're doing that, I would love to see them. You can just like give out the tags, Crate & Barrel, Breville, and at Onyx Coffee Lab. Happy holidays. Thank you so much.